Hello everyone, good to be back. Thank you all for your attention and time for participating in this stream, and many thanks to all the members of our community who will join later on or will watch this video in recording. Today is 24th of February. Now it's 6 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, and this is a traditional community chat. Usually this program was on Sundays, but I decided to move it on Mondays so that I will have a little more free time on weekends. I hope members of our community will understand this decision. And so yes, every Monday, as long as there is interest in our community towards this program, I will make live stream, and we can have a exchange of opinions in real time about any topic whatsoever. As long as I have any opinion on the topic or any knowledge, I will try my best to be informative in my commentary or a reply. But if I have no idea about certain topics, then I will just say so, because obviously one cannot know everything. I would love to know, but obviously it's not possible. We can just try to be as informative, as knowledgeable as we possibly can. And dear friends, I have prepared the entire program, entire news update, just in case there will be no questions. And also I have plenty of news on Telegram and my Twitter X page. So we can go through news that I posted on these pages during the day, or we can have an exchange of opinions if there is questions. I just checked Patreon and Boosty, there was no questions there, so I will go through chat straight away, and I can see Nikos is asking Levan, do you mind leaving not just questions but also comments for you to respond? Of course, dear friends, this is community chat, not just Q&A, but community chat, and almost always, I'm going through comments and reacting on it, as well as on the questions. And Nikos is writing, in any case, I'm leaving my comments here. So comment from Nikos is that I saw recently YouTuber called Sasha Meets Russia. Her father is American, her mother is Russian. She makes positive videos traveling Russia, like the Racketer watches. However, when she heard about the talks between the US and Russia, she gave the best reaction. She felt her hope again and answered with this. We don't have to love each other, we don't have to be friends, but dialogue and understanding is better than hatred and war. Do you agree with this sentiment? Of course, Nikos, 100%. And in my commentaries, in my updates, I said they're almost the same. Of course, it is necessary two major nuclear superpowers to be in communication. It's necessary. It's not just good, but it is necessary for safety of both countries, citizens of both countries, and for safety of entire world. And that's why I was very positive when talks had happened in Riyadh recently between high-ranking Russian and US delegations, and I'm happy that during this week there will be second round of negotiations, and it seems like both sides, at least for now, are quite keen to continue these talks, attempts to find some common ground to de-escalate in many directions, not just Ukrainian crisis, but in many other areas where during the Biden's administration relationships between Washington and Moscow become extremely bad, to say the least, right? And I also know position of number of members of our community who is very skeptical. There are critical comments that how can Moscow have a talks with Washington when There are so many examples when Western political class betrayed Russia or agreements that they were signed up for, and I can understand this skepticism. I myself is quite a skeptic, isn't it? And I demonstrate it many times in my updates. But yet again, it's not just about trust, I believe. It is about creating some instruments to be, and then to these instruments to be put in place so that whatever agreements between Russia and US are reached, these agreements will go through and would not be annulled after a couple of days by current administration in US or the future administration. So it's definitely not about trust at this point, because trust cannot be rebuilt even in decades. That's how bad situation is. But if sides, while understanding this reality, will work out some mechanisms to be put in place to secure agreements and to give each other some insurances, additional insurances, I think that will be great. That will be great, and therefore I'm all positive about these talks, and I really hope something good will come out of it. We already have some positive results. Many people may not really pay attention to it, but during the first negotiations in Riyadh, both sides did agree to basically reverse certain steps that was made previously, that made the work of diplomatic missions somewhat impossible. This process was initiated by American side, but Russia was responding in kind, and therefore eventually we end up in situations when diplomatic missions literally are almost not capable to do their job. And both sides now agree that as a first step, let's make sure that our diplomatic missions are at least capable of working, because how else we gonna communicate, right? And this is already something of positive, right? And hopefully in upcoming weeks and months, some further steps will be made, and we will reach some positive outcomes. And I really hope this Ukrainian conflict will end. This proxy war that West is waging against Russia will end this year as soon as possible, because it's a tragedy. By the way, it's a tragedy first of all for entire territory of Soviet Union, post-Soviet era. It is a tragedy for the Russian world because it's a civil war. Unfortunately, Western ruling class did manage to provoke civil war inside Russia. They did brainwash enough people in this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, and they put such extremists into their power that they actually managed to pull off this step, this move against Russian world, and they provoke civil war. Russian leadership, number of Russian high-ranking officials also in their statements mentioned this quite a few times, that this conflict definitely has in it elements of the civil war. It's a tragedy, obviously, and I really hope with the through dialogue between Moscow and Washington, this bloody conflict will end as soon as possible. Hopefully in next few months, but if it ends before end of this year, I think one may argue that's better than further prolongation of the conflict, anyways, isn't it? So yes, I am all positive about these talks, and I also want to have a hope, by the way, that something good will come out of it. Let's go through comments and chat. Once again, dear friends, hello everyone. Thank you all for your attention. Michael Kennedy is commenting, this is a working day. We may not have many people free to be here. Yes, I do understand that. Maybe timing have to be a little different for these live streams. Maybe I should choose some other day. I don't know. But on weekends, dear friends, as you can understand, it was a working day for me. I mean, sometimes I did have a day off on Saturdays, but Sunday was always working day. And my family members have day off on weekends, right? And just to spend more time with family and to stay away from this media field. I decided to move this live stream on Mondays, so that Sunday I will still have a news update, but then I will have a little more free time. Nidish Kumar is asking, Levan, will we see Canada and EU free trade agreement now as USA and Putin? USA is putting tariffs. Yes, it is a possibility for sure, but not just that, but some statements already been made that Canada may actually further increase its cooperation with the EU, so much so that it might even seek some sort of a membership or association with the EU. They may go ahead with these ideas. They might have a new trade agreement in place, but I don't think it will help Canada big time, because as far as I understand, 75%, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that, dear friends. Our friends from Canada might have precise information on that, but I believe some 70 to 75% of Canada's exports, by the way, is going to US. So it is going to be very difficult for Canadian businesses to redirect these exports towards EU markets. So there might be some trade agreement in place, but to establish themselves on European market, it's not going to be easy for Canadian businesses for sure. So therefore, I don't think it will help that much. Canada is bound with US, I guess, forever. And situation is quite similar with Mexico, by the way. Some 80 to 85%, if I remember correctly, of export of Mexico is also going to US. So Mexico will also struggle to redirect its exports in any other direction. They are just too dependent on US, and US definitely has leverage over these countries and some others too. Question is, I mean, this tariff wars that Trump might initiate, and partially he already did, although introduction of tariffs on Canada and Mexico was postponed for a month, isn't it? But I mean, as far as I understand from the information in open sources, US intends with these tariffs to incentive to receive more money, basically, to receive more money into the federal budget. And same time, another goal is to basically, how should I say it, incentivize businesses in Canada, in Mexico, in other countries to invest inside US itself, into production in the US, right? But these two directions are actually contradicting each other, because if you are forcing companies from other countries to invest in your country, then imports eventually will decrease, right? And therefore income from this import, from these tariffs, will decrease also. But you will have a better production capacities, right? But you cannot have both. Right? It seems this is the case. But as far as I understand, main goal for part of Western ruling class that is prioritizing US is to reindustrialize United States of America, and these tariffs are just a means, one of the tools that they might intensify this process of forcing different businesses from different parts of the world to consider moving their production capabilities into US. And I believe it might work. It might actually work, because US market is, I mean, it's a lucrative market, isn't it? And who wouldn't want to have a share in that market? And Europe is already experiencing the industrialization, isn't it? And where these European companies are moving into US mainly. So yes, Canada and Europe definitely can work out some new trade agreement, but I don't think it will help either one, because they are just too dependent on US, especially Canada. Michael Kennedy is commenting that Western MSM needs to start reporting facts about Russia. They would not, dear friend. They would not. For last 3 years, Western MSM, longer than that, but especially for the last 3 years, Western MSM was pushing this narrative that Russia is on brink of collapse. Russia is losing. Russia has no economy no more. It's finished and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, vast majority, as far as I understand, of public in the collective West did believe in this nonsense, and they're gonna have a very difficult wake-up process now, because they will struggle to understand what is the reality, because they are so deep into this bubble of the fake news, fake reality that was created by Western MSM. I don't think this Western MSM is even capable at this point reporting truth about Russia. They cannot do it, and they would not also. And take a look at the media, by the way, in UK. I'm monitoring, of course, as much media outlets as I can every single day, and as you also do, dear friends, we all notice, isn't it, that there is a still meltdown, by the way. Western MSM cannot cope with recent developments when it comes to reopening the dialogue between Moscow and Washington. Western MSM is struggling to deal with the statements that Trump and his team members are making in regards to Ukrainian crisis, in regards to Zelensky and his affiliates. They are done, basically. They themselves start believing in all that nonsense that they were pushing on public for so many years, and I don't think they are even mentally capable of changing anything or to face the reality. They just simply can't. Alternative media will do, by the way. Interest of public towards alternative media probably will continue to increase, and at some point, I don't know when, but hopefully at some point, these alternative media outlets will have enough force, basically, to deal with to compete, basically, with the Western MSM, or with MSM in general, by the way. Because the mainstream media is effed up everywhere, worldwide. If you think Russian mainstream media is extremely good, I would not agree on that. I don't watch TV, by the way, for a very long time, but I'm quite sure on TV it's all, everything is super pooper great and that kind of stuff. I just simply don't know. I don't watch TV, but probably they do some constant propaganda also. I guess similar situation is any other country, right? So therefore, I just don't trust MSM in general. I just believe, because I know mainstream media a little better in post-Soviet area, because I grew up in journalism and I had worked with different media outlets. I truly believe that in terms of education, journalists are much more educated here in Russia than journalists in Western MSM. I really believe so, because when I watch some videos on YouTube, or when I read some articles from Western MSM, I mean, these articles, these materials clearly highlight how incompetent those journalists are. And it's not just the lies that they are promoting, but they are demonstrating, while not even understanding that, they are demonstrating their poor education, because they are making huge mistakes on matters that should not, on matters that are not part of propaganda. let's say when journalist is writing about something and makes huge mistake in terms of geography, it shows that, I mean, if you have no idea about geography, what the heck you are writing or working on geopolitical issues? I mean, this is definitely not your field. So nothing you say has any competence in it, right? Or if a journalist writes about or makes a reportage for TV station about some, I don't know, some geopolitical events, and there has no idea and makes some mistakes in terms of history. So if you don't know geography, if you don't know history, if you don't know basics that are absolutely essential for journalists, then what do you know, right? So therefore, I really believe Russian journalists are much more educated. But when it comes to MSM, I don't trust none of them. Russian MSM, US MSM, European MSM, I don't trust none of it, by the way. They're all bad. David Stoll is commenting, Mr. Levan Gudadze, keep up the good work for updates, truthful news. Soon victory will be announced for Russia. Hurrah. Thank you for your comment, dear friends. Dear friend, it's not about announcing victory. Russia won in this proxy war for sure. It was a very bloody, and it is still, by the way, very bloody, difficult struggle, difficult fight, tragedy, as I already said, for Russian world. But Russia had to defend itself, and Russia did it. And one way or another, but Western ruling class one day will have no option but to face the reality and acknowledge that they lost. And after that, we might really see through the escalation. And seems like at least part of Western elites that are prioritizing US, at least that group is clearly ready to face the reality, and that's why we are seeing now these first steps from US side towards the escalation. Nikos is commenting, the US is listening for the first time. The British are lost cause. I saw an interview of your ambassador to Britain, and this woman interviewer her could not stop blaming. I know interview that you are talking about. Just like a couple of days ago, there was an interview of Russian ambassador in UK, and I feel sorry for Russian ambassador because yet again, what I just said, by the way, competency of the so-called journalists in the West is just too low. I mean, and Russian ambassador was clearly struggling to have a conversation, right? Because when you're realizing that a journalist that you are talking to has no idea about topics that person is talking about, then, I mean, how are you gonna have some meaningful conversation? It's difficult, isn't it? And I really felt sorry for Russian ambassador, by the way. But it's his job. It's part of their job to deal with their even incompetent journalists. And well, I did watch quite a number of interviews of Russian ambassador in UK, and he's doing quite a good job. He's trying his best, isn't it? So, but when it comes to first part of the comment that US is listening, yes, things like US is listening, and hopefully we are not mistaken. Hopefully we are not mistaken, and if Trump's administration really intends to de-escalate, then well, let's go ahead with this and this bloody proxy war and try to rebuild their relationships as much as possible. We cannot reach a friendly level of bilateral relations. I do understand that. It's not even theoretically possible at this point, but as long as the relationships are in at least working level, that's good enough for now. And who knows, in decades to come, maybe Russia and US will become strategical partners. I never say never, isn't it? So why not? I truly don't believe that there is any good reasons or any justified reasons why Russia and US should be enemies, man, or the hostile countries towards each other. I just see no reason for hostility to exist between the two countries. Objectively speaking, if our viewpoint is based on the national interests of their countries, strategical interests of the people, there is no reason why Russia and the US or Russia and the European states to be hostile. It's just Western ruling elites that are incapable of acknowledging that the world is changing, and they are struggling to come to the terms of the reality, and that's why they are acting this crazy way. JT Robel is commenting, Levan, please tell us something about how is there cleanup going in the Black Sea where their tankers sunk because their media don't tell us much. Well, last time I reported about it, last time I saw news on that, was that more than 100,000 tons of contaminated soil was removed from the Black Sea coastline of the Kuban region. Also, significant volume of contaminated soil was removed from Crimea because this oil spill did reach Crimean Peninsula also. And I believe tankers themselves, by the way, have been isolated now, and work is done to remove whatever mazout, this oil product, is left in the tanks there. And I believe main phase of this emergency work is being done, although work will continue for sure. Work will continue for sure, because for locals, by the way, tourist season, summer tourist season is a huge deal, and obviously local government, volunteers, federal government will do whatever is necessary to make sure that local economies will have no issues receiving millions of tourists this summer. Zarael is here. Hello, Zarael. And Zarael is commenting, they are not journalists, they are opinion makers and formers. Yes, I mean, they are propagandists, by the way. I agree with you, absolutely. That's what they do. They are just trying to push certain narratives on the public, and very rarely they are reporting about some real stuff, right? Maybe 5-10% is about something that really has happened, and the rest of it is opinion. The rest of it is just attempt to indoctrinate public in certain narratives, and that's about it. So, dear friend JT Robel, work is underway in this regard, and I'm quite sure before end of spring, coastal line will be clean from whatever volume of from this contaminated soil, basically. But unfortunately, significant damage is done to ecology. Obviously, marine life did suffer it significantly, but unfortunately, these emergencies do occur. And today was a report, by the way, that in Kuban, yet another vessel experienced some emergency, and there is oil products on board of that vessel too. So things happened now. Jerry Kogan is here. Hello, Jerry. The reason for monitoring MSM is not to find out what is happening. It's to find out what the government wants us to think is happening. Yes, I agree absolutely with you. I'm monitoring media outlets to basically know direction of the propaganda of the Western ruling class. That's the only reason, because if you want to find out the truth about some developments, alternative media, by the way, for this. But MSM is about to find out in which direction at that particular point ruling class is pushing their propaganda. I agree with you 100%. Nikos is commenting, Luan, since I mentioned the racket watches, did you know that a British guy saved the 300 years old watch factory, and he actually did it because he understands Russia and their culture? Well, I don't know, dear friend. I don't know about this story. Good to know. Thank you for sharing. And I might subscribe to Racket Watches channel after this stream. I guess it's an interesting channel. So, and maybe I'm subscribed even. I'm subscribed on million channels, by the way. So, Valtso is here, our friend from Finland. Here, their mainstream media run campaign claiming to be the only one telling the truth. Of course, I believe it. Yes, by the way, that's what MSN wants, isn't it? They want alternative media to disappear. And they want to be only source of information for the public, so that their influence will be as much as possible. But they are losing, by the way. They are losing little by little, step by step, but they are losing this fight to truly independent outlets. And there are so many huge names now, isn't it, on alternative media? And I guess majority of us are subscribed to those channels, and they are doing great job to inform public with their about what is really happening. So Nidish is commenting, Levan, even a lot of so-called independent media and journalists are part of intelligence services and the deep state assets. I have to agree with you, dear friend. There is a certain media groups in alternative media, certain projects in alternative media that present themselves to be independent, but if you listen to them, they are just using different approaches, different wording, but are promoting almost the same narrative. And I can name, for example, Breaking Points. Is Breaking Points a really alternative media? And truthful media? I don't think so. I really don't, because they were pushing anti-Russian sentiment since the beginning, by the way, without even trying to understand the situation really and to inform their followers, to inform their community with their maximum information. They did not even try, So, and there are some others too, by the way. So, I don't see them as a TYT, another example. Now TYT is undergoing some changes, by the way. It seems like Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian have are in some crisis, kind of, because they lost the ground. Formally, they are left winning, right? Even one may argue far left, but or they used to be, and now they are kind of coming towards the center, more like, because it seems like they're really fed up with all this woke, non-binary, non-gender fluid bullshit, really, and some many other crap that neolibs were pushing over the years and years, and they are struggling now to find their ground, where they're where they're standing, and therefore I think TYT, that I was subscribed to, by the way, years ago I was a subscriber to TYT, and then I unsubscribed because you know, I was no longer seeing them as a truly alternative media, truly independent. They were just pushing some talking points, some same narratives as MSM, but with different wording, different approaches, and now they are facing the consequences of that consequences of their own making, because they were losing subscribers big time. You know, I unsubscribed years ago, but thousands and thousands of people are unsubscribing in last number of months, right? And you know, I can continue with that, but you know, let's go through some comments. Jimmy Cliff TV is commenting, what's your take on the 100-year deal Ukraine had with the UK? Well, is that deal really something to take seriously? I don't know. I don't know. It was more like media operation, some propaganda step on part of London and Kiev. Although, by the way, one should keep in mind that UK is definitely second most powerful entity in terms of political influence in Europe after US. And now if this rift between US and Europe continues, London will become more and more powerful in this regard, and UK is definitely involved in Ukrainian affairs much more significantly than some might think. Almost on the same level, if not even higher than US is, right? So therefore, you know, this is this 100-year agreement between UK and Ukraine, we might see as a attempt of UK to maintain its presence into this territory, this area, and create some basement, legal basement for that. But yet again, it would not work, because once this conflict will end, Western Ukraine eventually will end up under Western control, rest of the Ukraine under Russian control, one way or another. But that's going to be case. So therefore, no matter what UK has signed up with the Zelensky's regime, it will just have no meaning after that. So they might claim whatever they want in the western parts of Ukraine, right? And US can do the same, but yet again, in that case, they have to deal with the Warsaw, they have to deal with the Bratislava, with the Budapest, with the Bucharest, potentially with Sofia also. These countries, by the way, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, Bulgaria, they do have some claims on territories, on parts of Western Ukraine. And they might argue that they have historical reasons for that, and they actually do, especially when it comes to Poland, Hungary, and Romania, right? So Nikos is commenting, Levan, I respect Germans more than other nations in Europe. Don't blame their people for electing Merz. They like stability and summonness. They have to live with their consequences. I respect all people, by the way. I wouldn't say I respect this or that people more or less. People are people. I mean, ordinary people, by the way. In Germany, in Russia, in US. I mean, we are just ordinary people, you know. And we have much more in common than one may think, you know. So therefore, I don't want to blame nobody really in nothing. What frustrates me is that unfortunately majority of the public in Western countries, including in Germany, are quite passive to basically act on their stupid and in some cases criminal activities of their governments, activities that actually harm local social fabric, local economies first of all, right? And Germany is a prime example of that, isn't it? During the Scholz's reign, share of German economy in world's GDP dropped to a record low. Is that an indicator of something? Yes, it is, but did the society in Germany, I mean majority, I know there is an informed minority, and this informed minority is increasing in numbers, by the way, quite rapidly. And yesterday's elections actually proved that big time, right? But still, there is a poorly informed minority, poorly informed majority that's still unwilling to do anything really. And I don't understand this. When you clearly see that your government is destroying your country, destroying social fabric, when you see your government is actually working not necessarily for you, but potentially for some groups of interests, we can call them globalists or whatever, and it is clear in case of Germany, in case of France, in case of, you name it, any country, pick any country in Europe. There may be a few exceptions, and the rest of it is run by some psychos, right? That are really puppets of certain groups of interests. And when you see this and you still acting as if nothing is happening, wow. I struggle to understand this, I have different approaches. I used to be a citizen of Georgia, right? Georgia is former Soviet Republic. I was in journalism since 17 years, and in 2008, by the way, I was leading news agency there. And when Saakashvili's regime provoked, initially in 2008, Saakashvili's regime provoked, reignited basically civil war in South Ossetia, and then next day, literally next day, he provoked war with Russia, military conflict with Russia, by authorizing fire to be opened on Russian peacekeepers that had UN mandate, by the way, in a region. I knew straight away that this was a crime that was committed by government against Georgia, against Georgian people, and me as a responsible citizen and a journalist had to act on it, right? And I tell to my colleagues in news agency to share with public as much information as possible to highlight this criminal activity of the regime. And I pay heavy price for that. Obviously the regime didn't like it. And eventually I had to shut down news agency and take my family from regime's controlled territory. And eventually we end up in Russia, right? But I did something. I did not just watch, how this regime was destroying country. I did something. I lost against the system, but at least I tried to be as useful to society as possible. And I have very same approach now. It's principles, isn't it? That our actions are based. It's principles. And I think I'm now when I'm a Russian citizen, I have very same approaches, very same principles. I want to be a good, responsible citizen, and I will try my best to be as useful to society as I possibly can. And that's why I struggle to understand this passivity of the public in the Western countries when they see their governments are doing something wrong and they still doing nothing. Majority. But it is what it is, man. Zarael is asking, what are Russians saying about the German election results? Well, from what I read, I will say media, at least quite excited, kind of. with these results because of the success of IFD and the conservatives in general. Formally, SDU, CSU, are kind of conservatives, right? And there is a hope, by the way. There is a hope that maybe sometime in the future, relationships between Russia and Germany will start improving. It will take time, obviously, and it will not happen under the Merz's leadership there in Germany, probably. But attitude, by the way, attitude here is positive towards Germany, towards people of Germany. There is a huge respect because Germans deserve respect, by the way. They build best economy in Europe with hard work, right? With their intelligence, by being immensely intelligent and hardworking, and of course they deserve respect. And well, there is, one may argue that there is a hope that we are observing now creation of the basement that will allow Russia and Germany in the future, sometime in the future, to kind of rebuild the relationships, at least to the good working level. I hope this is going to be the case. But attitude in general is a positive, not just towards Germany, but in general. But you're not going to find some Western hatred here. You may go on the street anywhere you want and ask first 100 persons that you will meet what you think about, I don't know, any country, by the way, Germany, France, Italy, and I'm quite sure 95, 98%, vast majority will say just some positive stuff, because hatred is not something that drives us. We don't spend time on hatred, so But media is quite excited, this is for sure. I read quite a lot of articles, and it seems like, yes, that's their attitude in the media, in the press, by the way. I don't watch TV, but in the press, it seems like media is quite excited that IFD did manage to achieve such a success. Also, there is some ironical elements in the articles that Scholz's party barely managed to become third, right? Not barely, but they lost anyways, right? Which is also kind of makes people smile. But unfortunately, I'm not optimistic about Merz's government. He made some quite crazy statements in recent months, and he may actually attempt to further escalate with Russia, further destroy relationships with Russia, if anything is remains from relationships that two countries had before. Nidish is commenting, Levan, the funny thing is that they find people from your ethnicity to do propaganda against you and your culture. Entire Western media does that to entire global South. Yes, it is true, dear friends. Dear friend, it is true. For example, daughter of the former Georgian president Salome Zurabishvili is working as a sort of expert in France 24, I believe. Her name is Ketevan Gorgestani, right? Many people may don't even know that she is actually daughter of the former Georgian president, who was obviously French citizen. I guess she still is a French citizen. She was working in French foreign ministry, and she was born in France, by the way. And then she was a part of French diplomatic mission in Georgia, eventually become a president. And this is an example to confirm exactly what you say. They are finding people that have connection with your cultural, ethnical, religious group, and they are trying to manipulate with these people because it is easier to infiltrate, right, this way into societies, and this is a usual practice that that is used. So yes, I agree with you completely. Sorry, dear friends, if I miss a question. Nikos is also asking, Levan, I know that it might not be beneficial for Russia, but how do you feel about Russia rebuilding Western Ukraine like they did with Chechnya? Can show goodwill and Chechnya is peaceful. Western Ukraine? I mean, Western Ukraine barely suffered any damage, really, when it comes to cities and towns. Of course, Russian armed forces were conducting long-range precise strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime, including in Western Ukraine, but that was legit operations of the Russian armed forces, and I don't think Moscow has any obligations to do anything in terms of rebuilding this destroyed, let's say, military infrastructure of the Kiev regime in Western Ukraine. I don't think Russia has any obligations in that regard. When it comes to, maybe you meant Eastern Ukraine. And Eastern Ukraine, former Ukraine, by the way. Eastern part is Russian now, right? Kherson region, Zaporozhye region, DPR, LPR, this is a Russian territory according to Russian constitution. And therefore, obviously, once this conflict will end, Russia will rebuild everything that was damaged and destroyed as a result of this high intensity conflict, and their people will have opportunity to go back to their homeland and live there peacefully and in safety, as it happened in Mariupol, by the way, right? Just this morning, I read it was this morning, I believe, I read information that Russian sappers began large-scale demining operation in Toretsk. So city was just now liberated, isn't it? Just a couple of weeks ago, and large-scale demining operation is underway. And even though city itself currently is still somewhat on the line of contact, because battles are taking place in about kilometers away on the southern western side, right? And Russian troops are advancing there too. But already sappers are in and the mining operation is underway. And as soon as it will be safe, civilians will have opportunity to return to their homes if obviously buildings are safe to live in. It's gonna be, it will take time, obviously. It will take time to make assessments, what buildings can be restored, and what buildings suffered so much damage that they have to be demolished completely and new buildings have to be built. So it will take time, as it was the case in Mariupol, but eventually everything will be rebuilt and people will go back to their homes and to their homelands, and hopefully will live long, happy lives. But Western Ukraine, by the way, that most likely will end up under control of West once this conflict will end. Well, Western Ukraine is no concern for Russia, I think. This is my take on that. Zarael is commenting, Levan, no, Merz is a BlackRock globalist scam, lobby influenced and wants to give Ukraine Taurus missiles. I do not like it. Trust him. IFD was at least better. Yes, I mean, obviously I don't know that much about internal politics of Germany, but I am on the same page with you in regards to Merz. He did, as I already mentioned, he made some quite crazy statements, including about Taurus long-range missiles. He was the person that was saying that language of ultimatums to be used to talk to Putin, right? It was a Merz, isn't it? I mean, crazy person, clearly, and he cannot be trusted, obviously. Let's see what kind of policies his government will pursue once he is becoming a chancellor. But of course, Moscow will be very careful, and I really hope Merz will not go ahead with their Taurus missiles, with deliveries of Taurus missiles to Kiev regime, because that will escalate relationships between Berlin and Moscow big time. Because Taurus is has a significantly longer range than Storm Shadow and Scalp PG missiles. Also, important point is that UK and France no longer are capable of providing Kiev regime with these missiles, these cruise missiles, because their stockpiles are low at this point. But Germany has hundreds of those Taurus missiles, right? 600, I believe, in stocks, although only 300 there is actually operational right now, according to reports that I see. Although nowadays, by the way, there is so much fog of war that it is difficult to know for sure what is going on. But that's the numbers that I see in open sources. But I hope he will not even dare to think about transferring those missiles to Kiev regime, because that will escalate situation really fast, and it's not gonna end well, for sure. But no one gonna trust Merz, by the way. He's and Zarael is leaving now. Thank you, Zarael, for your attention and your time. I appreciate that. Thank you, and my greetings, dear friends, to entire team of Duran, to Alexander, entire team of Duran. When Alex was here in Moscow, I had an interview with him, and I did ask for participating in live stream, and he said that he will talk to Alexander and they will work out something. But unfortunately, a few days after, YouTube become inaccessible without VPN, and now, because of the technical issues with the live streams due to this VPN, because I have to use VPN, of course I cannot ask Alex and Alexander to for an interview, because it's not okay when you have a live stream, serious guests, and you have some issues with the internet. It's not okay. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to invite them. But yet again, my greetings to entire Duran team. You are guys best in this field, for sure. So thank you. Also is commenting, it's a big job to clear their munitions and mines after a war. Even I have found munition from World War II at the turn of the 60s and the 70s. Yes, of course, it will take a very long time to clean up the territory, to demine these vast territories from mines, from munition that did not detonate. It will take quite a lot of time. But eventually it will done. Although, as you said, dear friends, quite often here in Russia also there are reports about some bombs being found from Second World War. So therefore, I'm afraid there are some mines and unexploded munition will be hazard for decades to come on this in these new Russian regions. So this is also true. And dear friends, yes, Michael Kennedy is commenting. Kursk still has rusty tanks from World War II. Yes, dear friends, there is many places, and there are groups here of volunteers in Russia, also in Belarus, that are working on areas of battlefields, and they are finding not just munition, but they are finding killed soldiers, and they are trying to identify and then inform the relatives. These soldiers were accounted as a missings in a battle, and obviously it is a big deal for relatives to receive information and to bury their relatives with their with all the respect, and so yes, work is still done in this regards, by the way. And it's not just Soviet soldiers that killed during the Great Patriotic War that are discovered. Also soldiers of the German army, soldiers from other countries that were fighting alongside Nazi Germany, and their remnants are also treated with all the respect. So as it should, by the way, as it should, because we should always stay humans, right? Always. Nidish Kumar is commenting in Levan, Laos and Vietnam had full-time jobs to clear bombs. Yes, I mean, so many decades passed since their high-intensity battles in Vietnam, and since these bombing campaigns that decimated Laos. There was a route, isn't it, through Laos that South Vietnamese troops, North Vietnamese troops were using, and therefore Laos was under heavy bombardment also. And yes, I can understand that there's many undetonated munitions that have to be neutralized. Potentially thousands and thousands, if you take into account intensity of a bombing campaign that US was conducting there, this carpet bombing stuff. So, dear friends, we have a good conversation, isn't it? I mean, maybe only a few dozen of us from our community on the live stream, but we do have a quite good conversation, and I'm happy about this. There is no questions for now, and therefore, I mean, it is more than an hour already. Maybe I should end the update on that. Nikos is commenting also, Levan, I forgot to say Happy Men's Day in Russia, or Patriots Day. Thank you, Nikos. Yesterday on 23rd of February, we were celebrating, not just in Russia, but in many post-Soviet republics. I believe it is still their tradition, celebration of the defenders of the homeland, and it is a men's day. Like, I will say every day is a female's day, right? But 8th of March is especially female's day, and well, 23rd of February is a men's day in this regard. And of course, my congratulations to all the defenders of their homeland, and especially to the ones that are defending homeland right now on the battlefield. And dear friends, if I may, I will end this update now. Thank you all for participating, for your comments, for your questions. I hope you find this conversation interesting, and so let's continue to do this. Jerry Kogan is commenting, I tried to send a boosted donation, but he did not know. I did not know if it succeeded. Let me check, dear friend, right now. Maybe Boosty has some technical issues. It's a possibility. Sometimes this platform does works, sometimes not. But anyways, Jerry, thank you very much for your attention and support. Truly appreciate it. These platforms do have some technical issues time to time, but anyways, thank you, Jerry. And Nidish is also asking, do you think Argentina will accept US dollar as their official currency? Well, I don't know, Nidish. I don't know. It was the case sometime in the past, isn't it? That dollar was either dollar was a currency, main currency in Argentina, or Argentinian. It's a peso, isn't it? There or or dollar. There was 1-to-1 at one point exchange rate, and maybe it was dollar. I'm not really familiar with the topic, but in attempt to stabilize economy, who knows? Maybe Milei's government will go ahead with this idea. I just don't know. Yes, Nidish is commenting it's a peso, so I don't know. As I said, dear friends, I may try my best to be as knowledgeable in many areas as I can, but I definitely don't know as much as I would like to know. Maybe just 1% from the volume of knowledge that is available, but most likely not even 1%. So I don't know, dear friend, but it's an idea. It might work because one way or another, but economy has to be stabilized, inflation has to be bring under the control, and if peso is cannot succeed in this, then US dollar may be their option. I don't know. So dear friends, I will end this update on that. Thank you very much once again for your attention and support. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow. Thank you all.